Good evening, everyone. I'm standing outside the elevators with my son, my mom, and a crowd of people. We are all so excited going up to the top of the hub of the Prudential building in Boston. As I go in and I press the 52nd floor, I think about how surreal that is that I'm there, and think about the time when I came to the United States. It's January 8th of 1991, in the middle of a very cold winter. I arrived from the Dominican Republic, very excited. I land in Cambridge, just a few blocks away from Kendall Square. Little I know that in the future I'll be visiting that place very often. I got here with one suitcase, very heavy. The suitcase was full of books and a lot of dreams. When Dominicans emigrate to the United States, we give away all our clothes or our belongings, because we say down there, why bring in stuff where you're gonna find so many things, right? And we always hear it's cold up here, so bikinis have no place in Boston, right? So my husband's family, I got to Boston to start my own family. My husband had immigrated to Boston a year before with his family. No one in his family worked in a professional job. No one spoke English. I had gone to English as a second language in high school, so as I get here, I'm the designated interpreter and person to guide them all in going to the doctor, shopping, and so forth. So with a computer science degree, I'm thinking, well, I'm gonna find a job right away in Boston, especially in Cambridge. So I start sending my resume out, but I get no calls. Nobody's calling me for interviews. And I just don't understand why. And I have nobody to ask. So days are going by, and I'm getting desperate. Oh, we are getting desperate. I was living in a 2-bedroom, overcrowded apartment, 5 adults, 2 kids. And we needed to move out before the landlord realized there's so many people in there and kick us out. So I had to sort of figure things out pretty quickly. The only person I knew had a professional job was my cousin Angela, a distance cousin that was working as an administrative assistant in a child care place in JP. Angela says, oh, my former boss, she's looking for a part-time receptionist, bilingual receptionist. And I said, of course I can do that. Please connect me with her. I go to the interview. The manager, Kathy, she's a long pepper hair, hippie-like Cambridge resident, married to an African-American guy, very liberal, and she just loved me. She's like, she really wants me to give me the job right away, but she said, you know, everything is fine, you just need to interview with my executive director. She's a little bit intimidating, but don't worry, you'll be just fine. So I'm very excited. I go home, get a great professional suit, and head to my second interview with the executive director. I get there. She's a very tall woman, big presence, expressionless, and very professional. She asked me a lot of questions. I'm nervous and shaky and, but I answer all the questions correctly. I go home and I said, pray to get the job. A couple of days later, Kathy calls me and she said, Claritza, you got the job. And I'm like, yes, but you have to start right away. And I said, of course. So I start the following Monday. I'm a week on the job, or maybe 2 weeks. The ED was on vacation. On a Monday, she returns. She walks through the front door, get to the front desk, and she sees me sitting there. She looked surprised, but also she looked upset. I'm puzzled and nervous, of course. She stares at me for a little while and goes upstairs. Soon enough, I find out she had told Kathy not to hire me because I didn't speak enough English. So I get more nervous in the job. Kathy comes down and said, you know what? You will be able to do this job. You know, with your education and your energy, I'm sure you can do this. And I'm sure you can gain her confidence. Don't worry about it. I have to confess that I also thought I could do the job. But the job, soon enough, I realized it was more challenging than what I thought. The challenging part about my job was the fact that I was learning a new language. In Spanish, we don't have those damn silent vowels in English. Words and names are spelled the exact same as you pronounce them. So this whole spelling thing, I never did that before. I couldn't pick up messages fast enough and numbers fast enough before the caller would hang up on me or get very upset because I kept asking to repeat themselves. I was getting so frustrated with myself because I couldn't really do that job. So I knew there was a problem. And then the executive director. She will come every morning with her big bags and her big personality, and she will stand right in front of my desk and just stare at me. She will not say one word. She will not say good morning. She will just walk in and stare at me. And she will stay there until she saw me sweat and get red and nervous as I worked out the phone. Remember, at those times we had no caller ID, so there was no help. And then she will go upstairs. She kept doing that every time she would walk in. So I'll be so stressed out. I'll be so frightened, and every time I would see her, every time I would come to work or go home very stressed out. At that point, I realized my job was at risk. With that $10 an hour job, I was making more money than my husband that was a KitchenAid at a local nursing home. With that money, we were able to move out and get a rent-controlled apartment in Cambridge. So I was desperate, right? I needed to do something, and I said, Claritza, you gotta do something. So it occurred to me at a time, I grabbed the white pages. Do you remember those? And the only person who spoke English in our family was my 12 years old niece that had come a year before and had learned English in school. Kids can pick up languages quickly. So I walked down the street. She lived 3 or 4 blocks away from me. And I said, Melly, can you please dictate names and numbers off the phone book for me so that I can practice the spelling of the names and picking up messages, at least the numbers and names, pretty quickly. She happily said, of course, Tia. So we did that. I would come down with my big phone book over to her house, and I would sit down with her for 2 hours for at least 2 or 3 weeks until I became a master speller. Yes. I was so proud of myself. Believe me, I could spell names like nobody could, right? We would start from the A to the B to the C. I was picking up names like this in messages. I was so confident. I thought I overcame this challenge. But that was not enough. One morning, my manager, Kathy, who loved me, she comes down in tears and she tells me, Claritza, because of budget issues, your position had been eliminated. I still can feel the sadness and despair of that moment. I hugged Kathy. We both hugged and cried. And I remember picking up my little stuff and just go home and cry. By then, I was 3 or 4 months pregnant with my first child. And just the thought that I couldn't make rent and provide for my baby was horrifying to me. I remember laying down in bed, crying, and crying. And I remember at one point I said, enough. I picked up myself. I again grabbed my resume, and this time then started to apply for other receptionist jobs because I knew I had the skills. So one organization out of Somerville, they called me up for an interview. But they couldn't believe I showed up to an interview 4 months pregnant. They looked at me like I had 3 heads. And I never heard from them. I still cannot believe a few weeks later, the executive director herself, she called me back to offer me the job full time. There was so much chaos in the office that everybody demanded for me to come back. The clients, the employees, everybody. What is Claritza? It seems like she worked out the budget issues. Of course, I came happy back to my job. Because I was a computer science engineer, I never left my books. Remember my books? I continued to practice my programming languages. I actually picked up a new programming language as I was working out the phone and developed a software for them, a case management software for them. And that I used that experience to find a job as a software developer, and then the rest was history. Back at the elevator, I opened my eyes. I had tears in my eyes as the elevators opened. And we are at the Dreams of Freedom Museum, Immigrants Museum, at the top of the hub at the Prudential. I walk out the hallway and I see a lot of people there. They're all smiling, waiting for me. As I get to the hallway and approach them, I see them smiling, but surprised. I look up to my right and I see the big portrait of me that they have placed at the museum. And I notice that the portrait is 5'7" tall. And as you can see, I'm 4'11". We all look at each other and laugh. And they said after they read my story, they thought I was much taller. And I like to think that I have a tall personality. Over the years, what I have learned is that we all have to support the potential that immigrants have to offer to this country. Like we are here, we have to support them, mentor them, and patiently help them achieve the American dream. But most of all, we have to be tolerant and understanding of other people's challenges, because we don't know the trials that they're going through. Thank you.
Amen.